When local news choppers cover a breaking story, you never know what's going to happen next. And in our first video, what the chopper caught purely by chance became a story of its own.
Hey, we're gonna come over and take a look at it. Copy that. All right, this is rapidly becoming very ugly.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, this isn't looking good.
In the past 5 years, millions of acres of California have been consumed by wildfires. And in 2018, with the massive Woolsey fire menacing northern Los Angeles County itself, local news choppers took to the air to cover every smoky second.
And then that provides a great deal of fuel for these fires.
But when some viewers saw this footage, they forgot all about the flames.
So the helicopter captures this massive cloud of smoke billowing up from the forest. And then all of a sudden, out of the cloud, comes this odd little shape. It's narrow, almost looks like a flat saucer on its side or a cigar shape.
Journalist MJ Banias covers the unexplained, and he says the cigar-shaped UFO is a classic type, right up there with orbs, tic-tacs, and triangles.
Cigar-shaped UFOs have been seen for decades, if not centuries, and we have lots of recordings of them, we have lots of witness testimony of them, we have lots of photographs of them. So for the UFO community, seeing a cigar-shaped UFO, it was pretty compelling.
The video caught fire online. Was a UFO somehow drawn to the flames?
There's a belief that UFOs use clouds as cover and they hide behind them. I've heard stories that UFOs can actually shapeshift and look like clouds. I've also heard that UFOs enjoy frequenting sites of great devastation, forest fires included.
Here's an interesting fact. More than 80% of U.S. forest fires are started by human activity, from cigarettes to arson. Could it be that UFOs are somehow drawn to these large fires? Let's break down the video with our experts. First off, we know the video is real. It was broadcast live by a news chopper, and you can see from the independent motion of the object that it's not just a smudge on the lens. So could it have been an object from outer space entering the Earth's atmosphere? We asked the video expert Mark D'Antonio, a trained astronomer.
Sometimes meteors will come in, and sometimes they hit the atmosphere at such a low angle that they can't crash, and they just go skipping off the Earth. And as they do that, they start to burn up.
But the California UFO wasn't burning up. And science writer Mick West, who's lived through plenty of wildfires, says it couldn't be a plane.
It didn't seem to have any of the features of a plane. It had no visible wings, and it seemed to be moving either too slow or to be too big to be a plane.
Set on solving this puzzle, West starts by determining precisely where the news chopper was.
I looked up all the helicopters in the Flight Radar 24 tracking service and tried to figure out where they all were at that time. Then I went into Google Earth and I positioned the camera where these helicopters were at around that time.
Using some satellite images of the fire, West is able to line up that image with the chopper's exact camera angle.
So I could tell that the chopper's over here, we're looking over here.
Then, the eureka moment.
And you can see here we're looking down, so it's all ocean.
That's right. The sky is really the Pacific Ocean. And the cigar-shaped UFO?
What if it was a boat that's actually out on the ocean?
West checks the local shipping lanes, and sure enough,
15 miles off the coast is the route that all the container ships take when they're going north and south off the coast of California. So what we were looking at was a container ship.
the moral of the story? Check your assumptions. That blue sky might turn out to be the blue ocean. And our verdict? That UFO turned out to be an unidentified floating object, a container ship. March of 2017, the International Space Station, 250 miles above the Earth's surface. Two astronauts are on a routine spacewalk to perform maintenance. NASA flight engineer Peggy Whitson films their mission and, in the process, captures something out of this world. A strange object seems to be following. Look closer. It appears to be spinning slowly as if to get a better view. It's visible in the background for almost the entire 7-hour spacewalk. Social media blows up. Many speculate that this is proof of a UFO monitoring the ISS.
Author and editor Brad Olson thinks there's an entire ET surveillance network. Some believe the centerpiece is a mysterious satellite called the Black Knight that avoids detection through a cloaking device.
The Black Knight satellite flies a very peculiar rotation around the Earth from pole to pole. So as the Earth spins in that direction, eventually every continent will come underneath where this Black Knight satellite flies.
In 1899, famed inventor Nikola Tesla received a radio transmission that some believe was from the Black Knight. And photos of a strange object like this one taken from the ISS add to the speculation that an alien satellite is orbiting Earth. But if there are aliens spying on us, no one knows exactly what they'd hope to learn.
What they're using it for to monitor the Earth is truly one of the greatest mysteries of our planet.
Now, other footage from the ISS has reinforced the idea that strange things are happening up in orbit. Check this picture out. It's from 2015, when a British astronaut saw 3 lights moving in formation near the ISS. Now, the image is tough to see, but let's zoom in and I'll point out what we're talking about. It's right here, here, and again right here. Strange, right? But before we sound the alarm, let's analyze these images with our experts.
Mark D'Antonio studies the spacewalk footage to see if the object could be some kind of satellite.
It actually falls into shadow of the space station a few points in the video. That is something that tells me that it's actually fairly small and fairly close to the space station.
So maybe it's one of the 130 million pieces of space junk circling the Earth. The ISS sometimes has to maneuver out of the way to avoid being hit by that stuff.
If it was space junk, you would kind of expect it to be moving across the surface of the Earth in a different direction. But because they're moving at the same speed through space, it kind of looks like it's something that's paralleling the motion of the International Space Station.
Mick West dismisses the Black Knight spy satellite theory for the same reason. It would follow a completely different orbit from the ISS. And after doing some investigating, D'Antonio thinks this UFO is from the ISS itself.
This particular object was a shield that was supposed to be installed, and they dropped it by accident.
The shield is made of 2-inch thick fabric that's meant to protect the ISS from strikes from space junk. As for those 3 streaks of light, D'Antonio researches that particular ISS mission and notes there was an interesting problem.
There was a leak of a liquid from the Russian sector of the International Space Station. In the final analysis, it turns out that this is almost definitely just urine that leaked out of the Russian sector of the International Space Station.
Our verdict? The UFOs were really a flyaway shield and some Russian urine. Yeah, I said it. But the space junk problem, that's real. In fact, NASA is worried about something called the Kessler syndrome, where so many objects will be in orbit that a collision could cause a whole cascade of smash-ups, producing so much clutter, it would make future launches impossible. It's a normal day in the skies above Plymouth, Wisconsin, and amateur photographer and drone enthusiast John Sukawati is getting the scenic footage.
I really just wanted to capture the storm clouds moving in. Maybe some lightning would be kind of cool.
But John's drone captures more than clouds and farmland. Take a look. Did you miss it? Don't worry, so did John. He didn't see it until he got home. Let's slow this down. I'm seeing a blurry white object whizzing by the drone. Pause it there. And here's a second one. When we slow it down and push in, we see another object that looks to be coming from behind a cloud bank. Let's freeze that. You can understand why John was taken aback.
My curiosity piqued right away. It was just something weird.
Forensic investigator Chase Klotsky says John's UFO videos rank in her top 5% for credibility. She notes that similar drone encounters have been popping up, with some suggesting these could be secret military micro drones or alien technology.
The theory is they're scouts. They're gathering terrain, information, even about maybe our atmosphere.
She was particularly interested in the object that appears to be coming out of a cloud.
We have a lot of reports of objects flying into a cloud or the objects coming out of clouds, almost as if they use them for cover.
So this stuff is all over the place. You've probably seen this video recorded by Navy fighter pilots. The Defense Department has admitted that's an unidentified object. So what are these things on John Sukawati's drone cam? We want to take a good, hard look with our analysts, starting with video forensics expert Michael Primo.
Primo applied motion vector analysis to determine whether or not John's video was a fake.
The motion blurring and the way that the object is traveling, the scale of the object, all looks consistent to me. It looks like there was actually something there.
But what was that something? My guess was hail. But our aviation expert, Tim McMillan, shoots down that theory.
I think hail's out of the question, because if you've got a heavy enough wind that is able to blow hail, something solid sideways, you're not going to be able to sustain flight with a quadcopter commercial drone.
What about the notion of secret military micro-drones?
The first thing we have to ask is, why would they be operating it within close proximity of a hobbyist? The object of keeping things secret is don't do them out in the open.
So if it's not hail, and it's not another drone, then what is it? Our other video expert, Mark D'Antonio, has his own theories.
Moving frame by frame, it seems to change shape in a rhythmic manner. It's actually changed shape in such a rhythmic manner that I began to actually think that maybe I'm actually looking at a bird flapping its wings, changing moment to moment as we go. The object is moving so fast past the camera that each frame of the video is slightly blurred. So that is why it takes a little bit of finesse to notice the bird's wings.
And as for that other object coming out of the cloud,
it looked like an object that had no structure other than it was a soft focused object. And to me that indicates maybe that we're looking at like a seed pod that can actually get whipped to quite a high altitude.
Okay, so is it proof or not? Michael Primo has seen a lot of these videos, and he couldn't identify these objects. So are they UFOs like the Navy reported? Maybe, but after Mark D'Antonio showed us that flapping motion, we're gonna say that object is a bird. As for the other one, the seed pod theory is interesting, but not conclusive. We'll leave this one as an unidentified object.
Quebec, 2018. A French-speaking family is on an outing enjoying a cloudless day when they notice something in the sky and start recording. A bizarre object rotates slowly, seeming to shine bright red and green lights as it turns. We push in and stabilize the image to get a better look. As the image comes into focus, you don't have to speak French to grasp the family's astonishment.
C'est quoi?
On le voit.
Hey, c'était vraiment nice.
C'est un vaisseau.
On le voit?
Je vois.
Oh, ça
The family grows increasingly certain they've spotted something extraordinary. And check this out. At moments, it looks like this thing is flaming, something we've never seen before. Is it a craft burning off fuel as it ascends into space? Journalist MJ Banias, a Canadian himself, says his homeland does a thorough job of recording such incidents.
Canada has a significant UFO history. We're one of the few countries that actually logs and collects UFO data on a yearly basis and then publishes the results of those findings. There are more sightings of UFOs over Quebec than in any other Canadian province.
Whatever this thing is, it's not making any noise, and it's not clear how it stays aloft.
The object is quite curious to me because it seems to have no visible means of propulsion, maybe even exhibiting anti-gravity properties. It's sort of just suspended in air and for a period of time. So this very well could be something not of this world.
So we've done stories of UFOs spotted at forest fires, hovering around flaming volcanoes, and even flying into the sun's corona. But this is a rare instance where a UFO almost looks like it's on fire. To shed some light on what we're seeing, we turn the video over to our experts. First, video analyst Mark D'Antonio examines the video and its metadata to see if we can trust it.
As far as the video being something that was fake or hoaxed, I don't believe that that's the case. I think that this is an actual object.
This object doesn't have propellers or produce exhaust, so our experts eliminate a drone or plane. And the sky is completely clear, so D'Antonio rules out a cloud.
This is not anything weather-related. Where there's no sun, it's dark under there, and where there is sun, it's bright. It kind of shows us that it's a 3D object being illuminated by the sun.
And what looks like fire might not be flame, but really a glint of sunlight off a shiny surface, says aviation expert Tim McMillan.
It's something that appears to have a very highly reflective surface. It's reflecting sunlight, very much like a mirror. And so all of that is very characteristic of a bright, shiny silver Mylar party balloon. And at one point, you can almost make out a shape, maybe an H, or, at some point, it almost maybe looks like a horse.
D'Antonio and McMillan think it's a balloon of some sort that's reflecting light so intensely it looks like it's on fire. But neither can explain exactly why the reflected light is so red, why the colors sometimes shift, or even why it's that strange shape.
I can't say it's not a UFO, unequivocally, but I do believe it's a Mylar balloon.
So, our verdict? The deciding moment for us is when the object turns sideways. We have to agree with our experts. With its wrinkles and strange shape, it sure looks like a partially deflated balloon. But we don't know what the letter is supposed to be. So it's a UFL, unidentified flying letter? I think it's an N. Warminster, England, about 100 miles west of London. The passenger in a parked car notices something that appears to be a couple of helicopters or drones. But then, look at this. They seem to split into 5 or 6 smaller objects and then perform a series of coordinated maneuvers. And it isn't the only video like this coming out of England. Almost 300 miles away in Sunderland, a beachgoer catches this on camera. Here, 2 bright orbs loop across the sky and seem to divide. It looks kind of like fireworks at first, but then watch. The split orbs proceed to conduct similar coordinated maneuvers just like the Warminster video. They remind journalist and author Alexis Brooks of other first-hand accounts.
In the field of ufology, there is something, in fact, called UFO mitosis. Objects that are seen first as one and then replicating themselves and following a similar trajectory. This could be what we're seeing.
And taking it one step further, Brooks wonders if the UFO's splitting is part of an actual biological process.
I've spoken to quite a few individuals who have been taken on board craft that believe the craft is actually alive. Not just the occupants of the craft, but the craft itself. The assumption is that the craft may in fact be sentient as well.
During World War II, Winston Churchill suppressed reports of a UFO sighting in order to avoid widespread panic. Could these splitting UFOs be similar to what he feared? We turn to our experts for answers.
Military analyst Tim McMillan looks at the Sunderland footage and eliminates some possible explanations.
It's not consistent with any fireworks that I'm familiar with, mainly because it's doing barrel rolls, it's leaving a lot of showering sparks.
McMillan also thinks that no secret weapon would be tested or operated over a public beach, out in the open like this.
It's doing a pretty impressive show that would lead me to believe that we're not looking at classified military technology.
He also thinks he could rule out UFOs, if only because of those odd sparks.
I'm unfamiliar with anybody who has seen any UFOs showering sparks and doing barrel rolls.
In recent years, China has used elaborate drone swarms to create synchronized displays. Could this be something similar?
Potentially a drone-type system that is specifically designed to provide a fireworks display that's able to shower sparks and do barrel rolls and travel all throughout the sky like this.
So it's possible. But instead of focusing just on the objects, astronomer and video effects designer Mark D'Antonio looks at these people on the beach.
I see what appears to be people looking at this. This person looks like he's looking some other direction. That would be a pretty eye-catching thing. Here's people, they're bent over, doing other things, and that this is happening without anyone really paying attention to it. That is sort of a bit of a red flag for me.
And if this video is sort of a red flag for D'Antonio, the Warminster video raises that flag and gives it a good wave.
Now, coming out from behind the hill, look, they're suddenly there. So watch. Boom. They started out here. The transition out of the hill is missing. It was removed from the video. Probably because the person who was creating this put in his little dots and took those frames out because he couldn't get a convincing exit from the hill. I think I have to label this one a hoax.
One more thing about the Warminster video. Just about every time the orbs get close to the hill, everything goes blurry. You see this? Like there's something to hide. There's no point in splitting hairs over self-splitting UFOs. We're concluding that both videos are in fact CGI creations. Gotcha.